guys, this is Stormmouse03.
And I'm Iron Praetorian.
Welcome back to Ramblings of Mad People. And this is our episode for July, which is the first month of the second half of the year. Can you believe it?
It went quite quickly.
Yeah.
Like this whole year. It's just kind of disappeared off on its own.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely feels like it has been that long, but also, you know, month to month seems to go by really fast, right? So, yeah, we are into the second half of the year, and we've been doing some things, getting some stuff done. So you went nuts. Why don't you start?
Okay, so I did 12 games in July. Technically, I got 2 of the plats in August, but that was because we prepped them for a little challenge that was going on one of the other channels that we follow on YouTube.
Yeah,
and so
you can plug it.
No.
Say.
So we got it set up for 2 plats in 1 minute on Ludi XP's channel for her 200th Locking It Down with Lucy episode.
Yeah.
And so technically they count for July, really, because we would have completed them, but we just sat there and waited until August. So
Right.
they're the ones that I have at the end. So my first platinum was Tunic, and I'm a filthy casual, so I use the accessibility options and a guide. I have the PS4 version and the PS5 version, so I've done the PS4 version. I will do the PS5 version more properly, probably, in the future, but this year is me being a demon of speed, and so I finished it in about 4 to 5 hours. Because you can make
That's
yourself
fast.
effectively invulnerable to everything.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I followed.
Sometimes it's fun to do that.
Yeah, I followed the 2-hour guide. There's a bunch of hidden stuff in that game, and there's also like a code system where you have to like open a little like option menu and put like up, down, left, right, down, left, right, and there was one of them was like 100 inputs
Oh my
long,
gosh.
and you have to make sure you get them all right. So yeah, that was a little tedious because it was like required for many different things. The good thing is, originally you had to do it without knowing whether you'd made a mistake, but they put this little window thing up that shows you the directions that you'd put in, and if you'd got one wrong, you could kind of go back through and delete them. So it made it a bit easier. But yeah, it was a fun little game.
Yeah.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it's on my to-play list on both PS4, PS5, and Xbox One, because I think it's still on Games Pass. So
It basically made me feel like Fox Legend of Zelda with Dark Souls difficulty, kind of, but also like some of those old Legend of Zelda games were not easy. I remember doing Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, and that was hard in places. You would get utterly destroyed by bosses.
yeah, I mean, as I've played a few more retro things recently, they're not easy games.
No, they
Like,
didn't
I
care
think-
whether you could complete them or not.
Well, in fact, I think a lot of them were designed to be difficult because that was where the length was, right?
Yeah.
That was what kept people playing.
Because you don't want them getting through your game too quickly.
Yeah.
And so you're like, we make this hard so that, you know, it takes you a while. And
Yeah.
you also don't feel like, well, I bought this game and I just finished it in a day.
Right, yeah.
Like, we
Whereas,
talked about, like, the old Sonics, right? I never finished one of the old ones, but you did.
yeah,
On
Yeah.
the original Mega
on the
Drive.
original hard drive, or the original hardware.
Yeah, Genesis,
Yeah.
for you.
It's interesting, you know, because they came from that legacy of arcade games, which was we make it hard so that people will have to feed it more quarters. right? And then, when you had home systems, like, it was still the same designers and developers and people making those games. And so, and they also had the incentive to make it hard because you had rental companies back then that were pretty prevalent, and they wanted you to not be able to beat it in one weekend rental, right? They wanted you to either have to rent it more or purchase the game. And so it's just an interesting relic of that time, right? Where it's like the difficulty was there to extend the experience for various reasons that were related to money. And I think that, now things are a little bit different, where they kind of want to elongate things because people think that short games aren't worth the money or aren't worth the same amount of money. And so it's all related to money.
Yeah, it always has been.
It always has been. But it's interesting with the change of times. But that is cool that you enjoyed Tunic and that it was kind of Zelda-like, because those are fun games.
Yeah, it felt almost like kind of not that I've played it, but like Link to the Past kind of.
Okay.
Or maybe like the remake of Link's Awakening on the Switch actually is probably more like what it looked like to me, if that makes sense.
Nice. Very cool. Why don't you go ahead and do 2, I'll do 1, because you have a lot more than I do.
Yeah, so I did Beyond a Steel Sky next, which is like a point-and-click adventure. It was decent. It was a good point-and-click adventure, but the trouble I had with it is that I think it relied a little bit too much on kind of understanding what happened in the previous game, because it's a sequel. But the previous game came out in like 1993. And so I was like, who's Joey? Why is he important?
What's going on?
And so you kind of have to figure out who Joey is as you go through the story.
Interesting.
And it's like, oh, okay, now I understand. But I kind of feel like some of the earlier interactions would have made more sense if I'd have known who this person was.
It feels like they should have given a
important
summary at the beginning.
Yeah. Which I don't think they did unless I missed it. But I don't think I missed it because I was at least paying attention to the start. Unless there was like a recap option. But I don't think there was. And it was one of those kind of annoying point-and-click ones where it's like you have to do a second playthrough to get one trophy.
Yeah.
Because you have to have 2 different interactions with this one person. And so it's like you have to get the good ending for them and the bad ending for them. And it's like kind of 70% of the way through.
I see.
But you can make a save just before you give them an item. So it's like maybe saves you half the time. But I'm kind of like, do I have to make another playthrough just for one thing?
Yeah.
Because it really didn't change anything else.
Right.
Everything else was the same.
If it's not... I don't know. I mean, I feel like sometimes those having achievements or trophies on games like that can be cool because it can incentivize you to make different choices and see different ways that the game can play out. But when it's not that different, that's the problem. Yeah, it just feels like you're playing through the exact same thing. It's like watching a movie and then watching it again. You know?
It's almost like watching the director's cut of a movie and they changed like one minute scene.
Yes, they added one little thing in or something, and so you watch the entire thing again straight away after. So, yeah, that makes sense. But otherwise, other than that, I mean, was it good? That's one that's kind of on my wish list of things to play at some point, I think.
I thought it was a decent point-and-click adventure, yeah, like nothing groundbreaking, but the story was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here, that's kind of interesting.
What kind of story was it?
So, like, the early premise is, you've kind of left this big city, you're living amongst some, like, farming community stuff, and then this robot turns up and abducts one of the kids. And so you're trying to track down what happened to the kid. And so it takes you back to the city that you left like 20 years ago.
Okay. And is it...
And you kind of...
Is it futuristic, or is it post-apocalyptic, or...
Kind of. It's kind of post-apocalyptic, futuristic, like set in Australia,
Okay.
I think.
Neat.
I think.
Cool.
It's like... I think they reference Australia at some point. I mean, the voice acting is mostly American, so who knows?
Yep.
But you know what it's like, right? They set it in a dystopian future in some country and everyone's
somewhere.
American. Or English if it's like an adaptation that's British,
Right.
and yeah. We got one Australian actor, okay? But yeah, that's the premise, is you're trying to track this person down, and it kind of reveals some of the plot from the first game and how things have worked out with what you did. So it's like you left your friend Joey in charge.
Okay.
And I was like, who's Joey? Why is he important?
Who the heck?
And then you figure out who Joey
Who the
is.
heck, Joey? Very cool. All right. Well, sounds like one that I'll probably want to maybe look up a synopsis of the first game before I play it.
Yeah. I think that would be a good
Good
call.
deal.
I played it first, so you didn't have to get confused about the plot.
Oh, silly. Well,
You know.
yeah. Aye. Well, the first one that I did this past month was a Games Pass game that was leaving Games Pass halfway through the month, and so I wanted to play this one, and I played the first one earlier in the year. This was the sequel, Figment 2, Creed Valley. And so...
Nice, yeah, I played Figment fairly recently.
And I liked that one. I liked the first one. And the sequel was cool. I thought they took it in an interesting direction. It was, again, you are this figment of this person's mind. You're a part of this man's mind, and you're basically like the protector and kind of protecting him and his brain and his thoughts from bad things that are interfering with him moving forward in his life. And so this one, it took a little bit of a different direction with it, and it's kind of like trying to find balance between work and home life is really what what it's going for there, where you know the man he like feels like I don't know what his name is, that's why I keep calling him the man, but the guy who you're in his head is he.
I don't remember if they tell you his name or not in the first one.
I feel like they say his name in some of those flashback scenes. I don't know.
I don't remember either, so I feel like they probably said it so few times that we remember the main character and
right. Well, so they're trying to buy a house, and he's working all these extra hours because he feels like, you know, this is the next step in their life. They want to buy this house and stop renting and be able to have this for his family, but it's like he's neglecting his family while he's working really hard to do this. And it's kind of like just figuring out what's important, right? Is it what you think should be important, or is it something else? And so you have, you know, some things that are going on in the brain that are kind of investigating that. And so it's a cool little adventure puzzle game where you're going through and you're kind of...
Is it similar to the first one? Does it play
it plays
similarly?
pretty similarly in terms of the combat, a little bit of combat with various things. They changed some things up with the combat so that you get to do some different stuff, like being able to like deflect projectiles back at things and some different moves and stuff that you can do. So that was kind of cool. And you are not chasing different fears this time. It has one main antagonist that you're trying to defeat throughout the entire game. So,
Taxes.
taxes.
Everyone's biggest fear. Taxes.
No, it's gosh, I can't even remember what its name was, but it's like a two-headed. It's on the cover art, right? The big
Right,
sort
yeah.
of two-headed
That
jester.
two-headed creature with the mask
Yeah.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Because it almost looks like the dramatic faces, right? Where
Yep.
it's like sadness and
Yep.
happiness.
Yep. And I won't spoil anything further because it's like I think the message is pretty cool for it, you know.
Yeah, it's like I didn't want to spoil a Beyond a Steel Sky, but it's like that, you know, the premise at the beginning is this. I think it's
Yeah.
fine.
So I thought it was a neat game. I think it's a little bit shorter than the first one, maybe.
Oh, really? The first one was quite
Yeah,
short.
I mean that might be wrong, but I guess I didn't.
Also, the second one doesn't have a plat on PlayStation. I don't understand why.
I mean, it might be a little shorter, or it might just be because I didn't have to go back and do as much at the end because I didn't follow a guide for the first game, and so
Whereas
I
I did.
missed a few things that I had to go back to the different areas and do. And whereas for this one, I did miss a few things as well because I did the same thing. I didn't really follow a guide as I was playing through, but I guess it was a little easier, a little bit quicker to go back and grab those things. I don't know. It felt like it had maybe less collectibles or something. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was about the same in as terms of length, I think, and it was good. So. Enjoyed it. We'll give it a
Sweet.
recommend. It is unfortunately off Games Pass now, but it's
It may
cheap.
come
It's
back.
not super expensive.
Or be on a good
yeah,
sale.
it's not super expensive to purchase. So
My next game was one that I've played on Xbox before called Death
Mm-hmm.
Squared. And it's a decent puzzle game. It's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I killed myself multiple times forgetting which stick was which person and throwing myself into the void.
oh dear.
So you play as these two little
Mm-hmm.
AIs. Well, or 2 AIs in the normal game and 4 AIs in the party
Mhm.
game. And the party game is just a bunch of 4-player levels, whereas the base game with the 2 has story.
Okay.
So it's like, it's basically like your 2 AIs in like a testing facility, and there's a dude and an AI that are like watching what you're
Mhm.
doing. And so there's like a little bit of banter that goes on between them through the
Neat.
story. And then it culminates in something happening, which is
Mhm.
cool. But it's like, yeah, one of my favorite things is like the AI keeps trying to force him to read the user manual, and he won't read the user manual. And then, so she comes up with like convoluted ways for him to read it. And she's like, "Oh, you finally read version 13 of the user manual. Would you like to read version 14?"
Oh man.
It's like, God damn. Yeah, it was funny. I enjoyed it. It's hard, like in places. Like you will tear your hair out a little bit. Be prepared to die multiple times. There is a trophy to die 999 times.
Nice.
I made it to the end of my entire run and I died less than 200. So I was like, well, now I'm just going to have to throw myself to my death multiple times.
Well, I suppose that trophy will be longer or shorter depending on how good or bad you are at the game.
There's a good spot to do it in the party section because sometimes you have duplicates of the same bots that are controlled on the same sticks. So there's 8 of them, and you can use the red and the blue ones to push the yellow and the green ones off at the same time. So you can get 8 deaths in like a second,
Nice.
and then it reloads. So that's a great place to get those extra ones done because it took me like 10 minutes just to get the death count
Grinding
up.
deaths.
Yeah. If you like puzzle games, I would recommend.
Nice.
Sorry, I turned my notepad the wrong way around. Next game was Lego Ninjago Movie video game.
That's a name.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Lego Ninjago, but I like the video game because it's short and it doesn't have DLC and it doesn't have like a super huge overworld to get things in. Like it has like I think 8 different sections of the city that you need to the city and then the other stuff on the island that you need to go and collect stuff in, and I found that nicer than a huge open world that you're like, there's so much here.
Yeah, it feels daunting.
Yeah, whereas it's like, oh, I got a section done, I can move on. Oh, I got a section done, I can move on. It did crash a few more times than like Lego games crash, but this one crashed way more than when I played it on Xbox for some reason. So I don't know if the PlayStation port is a little bit more unstable or my PS4 is getting old. It could be that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you like Lego games, I would recommend.
Very cool. It's your standard Lego affair, huh?
Yeah. Gold bricks, red bricks, characters, collect a million studs.
Very cool.
Rinse, repeat. Oh, get True Hero or whatever it's called.
True
in
Ninja.
Game it is. True Ninja. It is True Ninja.
I knew it. Yep. All right. The next thing that I played was another Games Pass game. This one and Figment 2 are both going off mid-July of Games Pass.
It's the scramble of,
oh gosh, I need to do
Games
these
Pass
Games
now.
Pass games. And this one actually took a little while. It was called The Wandering Village. And
oh yeah, I remember that one.
It was good. It's a neat little simulation management game where you're building a city effectively, or a village, I guess, because it's the Wandering Village. So because it's not a city. There's no.
The Wandering City is the DLC that's coming out next month.
I think that the Wandering City might have been one of the achievement names. But anyway, you're building a village on the back of this creature called Onbu. And he's like a big kind of turtle almost.
No Onbu, we can't
No
rest
Onbu.
yet. No Onbu, I don't want to go that way. Onbu, why did you lay in the
Onbu,
poison?
listen to me.
No Onbu. I know his name because of the amount of times you said it.
Onbu.
Brutus was like, is my name now Onbu? Is she talking to me? Am I Onbu?
I thought I was Boo Boo.
Yeah, he's like, is she saying Boo Boo or Onbu? Who is this Onbu? Do I have to kill? Who's vying for attention? Do I have to kill Onbu?
Oh my gosh, poor Onbu. So yeah, he's this big creature, and his back is made out of rock effectively, and it has grass on there on certain sections, and you build different things. You build fields, and you have farms, and you have quarries, and you have trees that you cut, and you can have a little, section where you grow saplings, and then you can harvest those at the sawmill and make logs, and you can have a quarry and you make stone, and you have berry collections,
and you farm the Elefleas.
And you farm the Elefleas. The Elefleas I like the Elefleas. They're elephant fleas that get on Onbu's back, and they are cool because they help remove poison, but they also raise his heart rate, so you don't want to have too many of them. But so, if they lay eggs, you can harvest them, and then you can use that to make food in your kitchens and stuff. And so it was a nice little balance of trying to get different resources, and you go through these different biomes, and he's constantly moving. That's where the wandering part comes in. Like, except for when he stops to sleep, he's constantly moving, and you go through 4 different biomes: the jungle, the desert, the mountains, and the ocean. And each one has its own different quirks.
Can you drown in the ocean?
I mean, I guess if Onbu died, then everybody would drown.
Fair. I just meant like if he slept in the ocean,
He can't sleep in the water, so you have to wait until you get...
Okay.
That's why you have to be careful about, you need to make sure that he rests before you're going to swim, and he rests on some of the islands. That's why the ocean biome can be pretty dangerous, because if the only place to rest is an island with poison on it, when he'll rest and then everybody gets poisoned, and then your villagers start to die, and Anbu himself can get poisoned and that sort of thing. With the Elefleas, Anbu didn't get poisoned very often, so that was cool. But and the Elefleas, you get them by going through a place where they are. So there's different parasites that he can contract. So there's the Elefleas, and then there's
gotta catch them all.
There's these little like flies. There's moths that spread poison that you want to kill pretty quickly. There's different types of worms. I think the rock worms are actually good for you because they make your farms produce more, but you don't want to have too many of them because they can hurt Anbu. And then there's the like tubey worms, tapeworms, and those are not good for him.
Nope.
And I think they make him poop a lot, which can be good for you, I guess, but it's detrimental for him. So it's that balance, right, where some of the things are beneficial for you because you're like able to harvest more resources, or it's easier to grow things, but it hurts him, and you want to keep him alive because if he dies, then it's problematic. But you can heal him, you can make medicine for him, and things like that will help heal him if he gets hurt or if he gets poisoned. So it's an interesting little game. It's still in beta, I think. So they haven't worked out, or I think it was called game preview, right?
Yeah, I think that effectively means, but I think like Slime Rancher 2 is still in game preview, because I want to play that when it has trophies.
And so, luckily this one did have achievements already, but some of them I think were buggy when it first came out. So like 100 days in, you get a statue. You build a statue based on how you've made your playthrough, whether you favored the villagers or whether you favored Anbu or whether you've done a balance of the two. And for each one of those three is a different achievement. And so I think in the beginning they unlocked the different achievements. So like the one that you got for favoring Anbu would unlock the one for a balance of both, and then the one for a balance that you got for a balance of both unlocked the villagers one. Right? So it was a little bit broken. Not that you could still get all the achievements, but they were broken as to which one you got, right? But they fixed that since then, because it was correct when I did it. But yeah, there was one for surviving. Oh, no, it wasn't surviving 500 days. It was you had to have 500 villagers.
500 population.
Oh my god. And like...
I remember we were chatting like the whole night for maybe like 6 or 7 hours, and you got like 25 people? Or 20 people? Or less?
I don't think it was quite that bad, but
that was the section where you got the least.
Yeah,
was when we were talking.
It would just be, you would go an hour and you would get like 4 people, and then in the next 20 minutes you would get 20, because it was kind of random as to where they were and how you got them. It was just so slow to acquire them, and it was very easy for them to die if you had a bad stint where you went through the jungle and poison was prevalent, or you went through the ocean and there was a bunch of poison islands that Anbu had to rest on. Like, I pushed him super hard. I kept making basically like shots of caffeine or shots of adrenaline that to like push him through some of those sections so that he wouldn't have to rest. You're like, we cannot rest here because it will kill people, and I can't afford that. Because it took forever to get 500. And so, you know, I feel like they need to make it easier to get people, or lower the requirement for that achievement, because it's just painful to go through and try to get that far into it, you know. So and I think they could add some things to it as well, right? Like I said, it's still in game preview, so I feel like, you know, if they added some more features or some more things that you could build and unlock and just change up the gameplay later on, because I felt like, you know, after probably about 250 villagers, I had kind of a good setup for everything, and it was just try and make enough food for everyone so that when you got to a section where there wasn't as much food or stuff wouldn't grow as well, everybody wouldn't starve. and that was basically kind of it. And it was, I don't know, it just wasn't, that achievement was not fun. But the rest of the game was cool, like getting to day 100 with different qualifiers, like not eating berries at all or not having any farms. Like, those were kind of interesting achievements to do, but getting 500 people was pain.
It makes me think of like the Flame in the Flood, because you have to do a bunch of different runs for that one, where it's like, don't eat any meat, or only eat meat, and it's like most of the runs are pretty simple. The trophies are reversed for one of them, or like you unlock one trophy by getting another trophy, even though they don't make sense. Like, one of them's to like travel 100 miles and then you unlock met everybody on the river, which is weird. But it's like, it has this like travel 200 miles in endless mode, and that's almost like your get 500 people, where it's like it takes forever, and you need to like super prep or get lucky.
So yeah, that was the Wandering Village. I enjoyed it. I do like those kinds of simulation management kind of games.
Me too.
So, yeah.
So my next game was Hogwarts Legacy on the PS4, which was my 6,000th trophy. Well, the platinum for it was my 6,000th trophy.
Nice.
Which is Trophy Triumph. Definitely runs better on the PS5. Definitely looks better on the PS5. Yeah, it had some loading issues where you'd like run to a door and then it would be like loading, and I'm like, can I go through the door now? Okay, now I can go through the door. I learned from my past mistakes. I made sure that I used the upgrade system this time. That game is really weird, where you have to do all of the challenges to get to the final level, so you can't face the final boss at the highest level.
Yeah, like you...
The maximum you can do is 39. Because a couple of the main story and one side quest finish after the main story.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you've done all of the game, then you've got level 40 for no reason.
Yes, to just fly
around. So I'm
around.
like, I'm just going to sit here in my level 39 gear and just fully upgrade that, because there's literally no point in me doing 40, because it's not going to help me in the final boss. I can't wear it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used the upgrade system, and I made sure I had, like, because you can breed animals and stuff in that game, I made sure I had enough materials so that every time I got a new piece of gear, I could just go back to the room of requirement and go, okay, I'm going to upgrade this again.
And it made it a lot less tedious, didn't it?
Yes. I worked on hitting each enemy with ancient magic early, and that helped a lot. And I recorded each enemy that I killed with it, which I didn't do before, and I was missing one that I thought I had. And yeah, that really helped, because I got it like the first like 10 hours in, I think.
Nice.
Which meant that I could then just concentrate on killing things. I did not do the extra side quest that was DLC, because it was annoying. the one in Hogsmeade where you inherit a shop. I didn't like that, and I was like, yeah, I don't have to do this.
Good.
And I would say I understood the main story a bit better this time round. After having played through it twice, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's good enough. I wouldn't say it's my favourite main plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being fully upgraded, the boss fight at the end was trivial. Like, he died in about, I don't know, 20 seconds.
Yep. So. Yeah, the story of it, it's good, but it also feels, like you said, it feels a little bit of a rehash of Harry Potter, right? Like,
you're super special.
You're the chosen one who can do the special things, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just, I do kind of wish it focused more on the school aspect of it, and it felt like something that was a little bit less big, right? A less big scale.
And it's almost like your body count for like a 5th year student is plain ridiculous, where it's like, I've killed 1,000 people.
Right.
Here's your owls. Now you got to sit your OWL exams.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It is a little weird.
Yeah, it's like you have to kind of suspend your disbelief sometimes.
Sure.
And I know we do that a lot in video games, but I just thought it was funny as like a student in Harry Potter that single-handedly murdered about 1,000 poachers and Ashwinders.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah.
But yeah, like my favorite part is the side quests. Like, I really like Natty and Poppy's side quests. Sebastian's is fine. It's not my favorite. People like think people say that it's their favorite. But I just didn't enjoy it particularly.
Yeah.
It's because it's dark arts stuff, and it's like, yay, the dark arts, and I'm like, the dark arts.
don't.
And also having to play as each house for like 3 hours is a little bit annoying. It's like, just why? I'm gonna play one character. Why do I have to play through like each thing? As I understand that it's slightly different with each,
right?
But it's still very similar.
Yeah.
In the other aspects of like, you still do all the same lessons, you interact with all the other same people. It's just that like one quest to find a particular thing
is a little different. And it's quite far into the game, right? Like, you know, it's several hours, 2 to 3 hours.
It's at least 3 hours.
And so, you know, it's not a brief amount of time that you have to do.
I would still recommend it if you enjoy Harry Potter and like the Harry Potter universe. Yeah, definitely play the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Very fun.
But yeah, I got my 6,000 trophies, so we can take that off the list. And then the next game I played was a little one that I bought on sale called Hidden Through Time, which is like a Where's Wally, Where's Waldo, depending on which side of the pond you are. Because it's funny, like, in America it's Where's Waldo, and his opposite is called Oddlaw because it's Waldo backwards, but it's Where's Wally in the UK, but the guy isn't called Ilawa, he's still called Oddlaw. It's like, why didn't we just call him Waldo? Like, I mean, Wally is a more British term, but
yeah,
it makes more sense.
Very weird.
It's like Zootopia and Zootropolis. It's like, why?
Why do you have to rename things?
Because, I mean, for some of it it's marketing.
Yeah.
And for other things, because we can, probably. Oh no, we don't want that name, we want our own name. Would you like a cup of tea?
Oh.
But yeah, Hidden Through Time was like that, where you have to look for certain items and click on them. Yeah, it was fun enough.
Yeah.
Some of them were way too small for my poor eyes.
No.
I was like, this, and some of the maps were too white for me, like too white, too bright, and I was like, I need sunglasses and I need to finish this game quickly.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, okay, spend a few minutes on a level, then use a guide to get through it if you can't find the things, because I was like, I can't risk burning my eyes out on this thing.
Staring at
and
this
then
white
you have
screen.
to do 50 online maps that people have made.
Mhm.
And I was like, why? Because, like, the ones you search for normally are, like, full of things. But if you go on there and, like, put in easy or trophy, it's like people have just made them where there's 5 things that you could click on and then you're
Nice.
done. And it's like, well, now I've got to do this 50
times. Yeah.
It's like, well, 20 would have been plenty.
10.
I mean, it gave you, like, one, like a trophy for doing 1, and then a trophy for doing 10, and then a trophy for 25, and then a trophy for 50. And it's like 10 or 20 would have been fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it served its purpose for like a little fun, like, ooh. And it was like Stone Age. I'm trying to remember which ones were available in the main game without buying DLC, because the online ones were everything.
Right.
I think it was like Stone Age, Medieval, Wild West. I don't remember what the other one. Oh, Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was Stone Age, Egyptian, Wild West, and let me start again. It was Stone Age, Egyptian, Medieval, Wild West. There we go.
Nice.
Got there. Got my
Got it.
timeline of things in the
Got it.
right order. Except the Stone Age one had dinosaurs, which wasn't accurate, but also is better because dinosaurs are cool. But yeah, that was my next game.
Very cool. And it sounded like you just kind of wanted a little bit of a palate cleanser, like a shorty.
Yeah, I did a couple of shorties.
Yeah.
I did when the past was around again as well. That point and click adventure one that we did before.
Mhm.
It's still a very weird game. I'm just like, why is there an owl man? And
He's the only.
why did we marry
He's
him?
the only person in the game with an animal part.
Head. Yeah.
Right? It's like,
Was it like they wanted us to be able to collect feathers and have it make sense, or because it's like the bird in the cage and you've got to let it go free because you've got to get over your grief? I was like, I still don't fully understand
Right?
what was going on, having played it a second time.
yeah.
I mean, I do kind of. It's basically like you're playing someone who's grieving for having lost their husband, and you play through the like them processing it. It's
Right.
basically the plot.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like, why an owl?
Yeah. It was just I feel like it was meant to represent something, and I just don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know if in a certain culture, like owls are meant to. I mean, like they're supposed to be wise or whatever.
Right?
But, like,
Yeah.
He was like a musician, and I'm like, are owls musical?
Somewhere.
Are men portrayed as owls?
Yeah. I don't
Clutching
know.
at straws.
Yep.
No idea.
No clue. Cool. Well, my next one was Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So, the last one to finish the Survivor trilogy on PlayStation for me. I had played through it. I 100%ed it on Xbox back when it released, which was 6 years ago.
Yeah, 2018, I believe.
Yes. And
So did
yep, and so it's been a while since I played through it, and the story was a little bit better than I remembered it being. I think, that was when my mom passed away.
Yeah,
right.
we also discussed the story after you played it this
Yeah.
time, and I was like, oh, I misremembered a bunch of stuff as
Yeah.
well, because obviously I don't think my brain was anywhere near normal either, because I was worried about you
Right.
and stuff, and I was like, okay, you explaining the story to me this time actually makes sense.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I still think it's probably the weakest of the 3 games
I
in
agree.
terms of story. The gameplay is fine. I still think Rise is probably a little bit more polished in terms of gameplay. It feels very much like they were made to rush Shadow out, and it's not glaringly so. you know, but it does feel like the levels are maybe a little bit more linear than they would have wanted them to be.
The game's shorter, right?
It is a little shorter than Rise, yeah, in terms of the main story. The main story is not that long, because I played through it once on normal, and then I played through it again on the hard mode, and just did story missions for that second playthrough. And it's not super duper long. It's like maybe 8 to 10 hours.
Whereas like Rise, because you can't do a New Game Plus, you basically have to play through like at least half, if not more, of the side stuff to be able to level up and to survive the game. So that makes it even shorter,
in
comparison on the hard run.
Yeah. And this one you did have to do the hardest difficulty where it only saves at campfires. And you didn't have to do that for the trophies on Rise. You had to do it for the achievements on Rise, but you didn't have to do that. They took out that trophy for some reason on PlayStation.
So it's basically Extreme Survivor.
So yeah, it's basically Ultimate Survivor mode on Shadow. So you have to do each section. There are a couple of checkpoints that it gives you in the middle of things, like thankfully. Because the beginning section, it's a very long time before you get to the first campfire. So I know there's at least one checkpoint at the beginning of a like chase sequence, effectively of the flooding section. And so, because I died there a couple of times, but thankfully it had a checkpoint at the beginning of it, and you didn't have to replay through a bunch of the early like beginning stuff. That was a lot of cutscenes and tutorial stuff and whatnot. So it blessedly gave a few checkpoints in some of those spots, but then there were other places where it didn't do that. You know, for the majority of the game, it didn't have those. And so you had to be ace on your timing and not get killed in the combat and like all that. And with the upgrades, because you can do it on New Game Plus and have all of your upgrades and costumes and stuff from your first game, so that makes it a little bit easier, but there were still a few sections that were challenging to go through. Some of it was fighting the mechanics, because there are a few mechanics that are very picky, where it's like it wants you to throw the grappling axe here or at this exact moment, and if you mess up the timing there, it's bad. Or you would think that like, oh, I could just grapple up to that, but it's not a spot where it has designed it so that you can do the grapple axe, so it doesn't work there. So it
doesn't have this specific piece of wood on the ledge.
Yeah. It's very picky about its timing and placement and stuff.
Like you said, the lack of polish, as if that might have been something if they'd have had more time to make all the ledges grappleable.
Right, like once you get that mechanic, you can just use it, rather than it has to be in these specific spots that you can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and so that makes it a little bit challenging, where it's like, oh, what do I do here? And where do I go? And you aren't able to use survivor vision or whatnot, so you can't use that to see where you're supposed to go or to highlight important areas in the area. So you just have to remember or, you know, see it, right? And so there were a couple of spots where I thought that I was trying to go the right way, but it really, like, that ledge wasn't the one that I was supposed to be jumping to. It was one that was, you know, 10 feet in the other direction or something. So there were some spots like that. I do think that it feels like it could have used some more development time, and they could have polished the gameplay a little bit more, and they could have maybe polished the story a little bit more, although the story was okay. It just wasn't my favorite, but it was all right in terms of making sense and whatnot. There were a couple of parts in the story that were kind of like, well, that's convenient. But
For reasons of plot.
for reasons of we needed to get through this and we didn't have time to make another level where we
Yeah.
explained things better or something like that. I don't know. But overall, it was a fun game. I enjoyed replaying it on PlayStation and getting the plat and doing, the DLC challenge tombs and stuff like that. So it was good. I do like my Lara Croft, and I hope that they come out with a new Tomb Raider game soon. I know that it's in the works, and so I'm excited to see their reveal of what that's going to be, whether this is a continuation of the Survivor trilogy Lara, or whether it's going to be another soft reboot, or what they're going to do with it. I'm not sure. So I hope
We
that
shall
it's
see.
I
Yeah,
hope it's a continuation.
I do too.
So we'll see.
I like Survivor Lara.
Mhm.
So. Okay, so my next game was another Lego game. The Lego Movie video game.
Woohoo! I sense a theme.
Movie video game.
No, that it was a Lego that wasn't super long and didn't have DLC. Right?
Yeah,
So
literally my
similar.
note said short, no DLC.
Oh, it's like I read your notes.
Stop looking at my notes.
But no, it was like the same as Lego Ninjago, right?
Yeah, a decent movie tie-in Lego game, but it did have a few little programming problems where, in one section in the first level, when you're doing free play mode, if you don't have the two specific characters that were there in the story mode selected, it soft locks the level because you don't start the dancing minigame and you can't start it, and so you have to restart.
Huh.
Yeah.
That stinks.
And it did the same thing in the first part of the Wild West level, where you have to build a wagon and then you jump in the back and change. If you don't kill all the enemies, it soft locks you.
Huh.
You get just stuck in that scene where
Yeah.
it's just zoomed in on the wagon and nothing happens.
Huh.
And if you're not playing as the two characters again, in free play, it does the same thing.
Yikes.
I'm like, annoying.
Yes, that is annoying.
Yeah, I had to redo one level 3 times.
That sucks.
Where I was like, damn it. But the good thing is it was one of those first Lego games where you could save midway through the level. So I made sure I did everything else and then saved.
Nice.
And then tried it again and it failed, and then I went, right, I'm gonna beat Emmett and Wildstyle from when I was doing this in story mode and see if that works, and it worked, and I was like, right, okay, moving on.
Yeah. That's interesting that it had that little bug. But I remember you playing it, and it sounded like you were having fun with the levels, with the story.
Spaceship! Yes. Yeah, no, I like the first Lego movie. I haven't seen the second one. I didn't hear good things about it, so I didn't bother.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the first one. It has my kind of comedy stuff,
Nice.
where it's Morgan Freeman's character gets blinded, and so he has this ability called Blind Courage, where you build these really rickety things over fires, and he's like, oh, it's totally fine. It's not like the ground underneath me's on fire. And then you hear Batman in the background goes, are you sure he's blind? I feel like he can see everything, because he keeps making comments that are entirely accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no electricity beneath me or buzz saws. They're like, are you sure you're blind?
How do you know?
He's Morgan Freeman. He's God. Obviously, he knows.
Because, it's not like fire or electricity or buzzsaws make a noise that you could hear.
No. Or the heat that you could feel.
Right? There are other ways to sense things other than seeing.
And it has annoyingly catchy songs.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you have to do a little dance number to it several times through the game.
Yep.
This is my favorite song. I like the robot version, where it's just a bunch of robots, and they're like, oh my god, this is my favorite song. And then they start dancing with you.
That's funny.
Yeah. it hits the right comedy levels for me.
Mm-hmm. It's a little silly, but it's not cringe.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No, and Emmett's Peter Quill. Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt.
See, for some reason, I like Chris Pratt in animated things, where I don't have to look at him as an actor for some reason.
Right.
Whereas, like,
stupid face.
whereas, like, Onward, I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to see the Mario movie as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one that we should get and watch. But cool.
But yeah, going back to the Lego Movie video game, I would recommend it. If you enjoy Lego games, because it's shorter and doesn't require extra money to buy DLCs if you want to go for the 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
And it was another one that basically it didn't have any. It's really short because it doesn't have any gold bricks in the overworld. You just do quests to get the red bricks, and all the gold bricks are in the levels.
Nice.
Plus, like, the bonus level at the end has 10 in as well. So there's like 70. Rather than the 200 you usually have to collect.
Right, yeah, so a little less tedious.
But also, when I first bought it, I was like, oh, it's that short, and I paid full price for it on release back on Xbox, and I was like, you know when you're like, damn it, it's too short, and then when you come to do it later, you're like, oh, actually, no, it's not too bad.
It's kind of nice. Yeah.
And then the next thing I played was Celeste, because it was on sale.
Mm-hmm.
I like the story and the art style in that game, so I enjoyed playing through it, but it's not fun doing the platforming, so thank God for assist mode.
Yeah.
Where you can just literally give yourself infinite boost and fly through everything.
That's amazing.
Square, 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 strawberry, square, 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 second strawberry, square, 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 don't touch the ground, we need to get 6 strawberries. And then when you touch the ground, you get a 1-up.
Nice.
Yeah, there was only like 2 tedious trophies, which was collect 6 strawberries without touching the ground so that you collect them all at once and it gives you a 1-up.
Mm-hmm.
Not that the 1-up does anything.
Right.
It's just like a little score thing.
Yeah.
And then the other one is there's like a mini game of Celeste within Celeste that doesn't have the assist mode on it.
Ah.
So you actually have to play it properly.
Oh no.
I mean, it only took like half an hour. It was fine. But because I'd done it before.
Yeah.
And I remembered not to use a particular guide where the person uses speedrun strats to try and jump through a section I couldn't do until I realised I wasn't supposed to go that way.
Right, I gotcha.
And then when I did it normally, I finished it in 10 attempts.
I see.
I was like, damn you, speedrun strats. But yeah, if you enjoy 2-dimensional platformers that are difficult, then play it on normal. And if you don't and you want to just, see the story but not have to spend 3 hours on one screen, use assist mode.
Yep. Good deal.
So yeah.
Yeah, was that your last one?
No.
Okay. Well, I have one more.
Which was
a short hike. Which was yet another Games Pass game that was going off of Games Pass at the end of July. The other 2 were going off in the middle of July, and then A Short Hike was coming off at the end of July. And so I wanted to...
You got your money's worth out of Games Pass this month.
I did.
Which is nice.
I did. And so I wanted to play that one. I had thought that it looked fun and chill and cute, and it was. You're playing as this bird who is on vacation camping out at this mountain area, or I guess it's on an island, but it's got a mountain on there, and the whole idea of it is that you want to get to the top of the mountain. You want to climb up.
Well, that's like Celeste.
Yeah.
You want to get to the top of the mountain.
Except this one is very chill and not hard. And you collect...
My version of Celeste was very chill and not hard. Except when I missed one strawberry and had to restart the entire level.
Oh,
Moving on.
No. So yeah, it's kind of a little open world thing, and you go around and you do different little mini quests for people, like clean up the trash on the beach, or collect 15 shells for me, or find my watch. And
makes me think of Toem.
yeah, it was very much like that. And
you really like that one as well.
yeah.
So.
And you get like golden feathers, which help you to be, it's basically like it elongates your energy bar, and so it gives you more flaps that you can use to fly up higher, or it lets you climb for a longer period of time. And so you want to collect enough of the golden feathers throughout the game for you to be able to have the enough stamina to make it up to the top of the mountain. And it was cute. You can change the art style to make it either more pixelated or more smooth art style. And I think I preferred the more smooth art style. I just liked it. It looked cleaner. It was easier to tell what things were. But it's very much a preference thing, right? And so, I think that depending on what you like, you can just make it look like how you want it to look, and that's pretty cool. And yeah, it was chill. There were only a couple of parts that were a little bit tedious, and one was the stick ball game, where it was basically volleyball but with sticks you were hitting the ball with. And you had to get 30...
that well-known sport,
yeah.
Volley stick.
Stick ball. And so you had to do 30 passes between you and the other person.
It almost makes me think of like lacrosse.
I mean, I guess kind of.
But obviously you didn't have a net on the end of your stick.
Right, no, it was just a stick. And so, yeah, it was a little bit difficult sometimes to gauge exactly where the ball was gonna land. And so you might miss it by just a little bit and feel like you shouldn't have. Or they hit it down to one end on one pass, and then they hit it down to the other end, and you can't quite get there to make it there to get it. So that one took a few tries. And then the boating one, where you had to do a little race through some checkpoints with a boat in a certain amount of time. And that one...
It's a race.
Yeah, that one wasn't... it wasn't too bad. I didn't understand the mechanics, how they worked right away, and so I was crashing into stuff because I was turning it all kinds of wrong ways. But once I figured out how I was supposed to be controlling it, it was a little different than how I thought. It worked just fine. So, that one might not be difficult depending on if it's intuitive for you to kind of know how to control that right away. But, other than that, it was a nice chill little game where you collected stuff and climbed a mountain, and it was fun, and it was pretty short. And so that closed out my July.
Nice. So my last game of July, technically, was The Fall Part 2.
Nice.
I enjoyed it as much as I did the first one. I think it elaborates more on the story of the first one and kind of fills in the gaps about what has happened to you. I'm not going to go into any details because the story is kind of pretty important to the game.
Yeah.
Like, the mechanics are not the best, and so the story elements are important, and I wouldn't want to spoil the first game. So
Right. Yes.
because like anything you say for the second one is like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny because I just talked about the first one last month.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Controls were a little clunky in places, like because you have to try and scan things, but you can only do it when you like point your flashlight or torch, if you're English, at people or things, to be able to click on them. And like there was one bit where I was next to stairs, and instead of like moving the thing up to scan a door in the roof, I hit the wrong one and went down the stairs and up the stairs and down the stairs and up the stairs. And I'm like, can I please just go in the attic / loft?
Yep.
You know the bit I mean. Yeah. So that was a minor complaint.
Right.
And then the major complaint is that damn S and S Plus combat section that you
Yep.
warned me about.
I did.
I understood it was going to be
I
annoying.
tried
And
to
I was
tell
stuck
you.
there for You did tell me.
I know.
And I was stuck there for 2 hours
Mhm.
doing the same combat over and over and over again and feeling like I was doing the best I could.
Mhm.
And it was just being stupid.
Yep.
So you've basically got like an energy bar, and you need to make sure you don't use too much energy, but you need to make sure you don't get hit, and so you've got to hit people economically,
Mhm.
but you also don't want to wait too long because that breaks your combo.
Yep.
And it was a whole thing.
Yep, it was a whole thing, which I sympathize with because, yeah.
You just had to be one.
Yes, you had
With
to
the
be
one.
the one.
You had to be the one
Yep.
to do it. And I don't know why it needed a second playthrough, really.
Yeah.
Because it has like binary choices where it's
Mhm.
like you can choose top or bottom, but every time you choose the top, it does the bottom anyway. So what was the point? It
Yeah.
didn't make any sense.
I know. I agree.
I was like, why give choices when it's no choice at all?
Right. I mean, I kind of understand why they did that narratively,
I
but
do.
I don't know why they had to make an achievement for both.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it should have been choose all the top choices or all the bottom choices, and that would have been enough.
Yeah.
But because it's like choose all the top ones and all the bottom ones, and they're mutually exclusive, it's like,
Mhm.
well, now I need to do another hour. And it's all the same.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't change
Doesn't
anything.
change anything.
Like we were talking before, if
Mhm.
you do another run of a game, like Mass Effect,
Yep.
you play through as Paragon,
Mhm.
then you play through as Renegade.
Yep.
The choices are different enough and have an impact on the story enough that I feel like it isn't as bad,
Right. Yeah.
because the dialogue is different. You get a different mission,
Right.
and it affects the game going forward. If you
Mhm.
make Renegade choices, they carry over to the next game.
Yep.
Whereas this is like it's the illusion of choice.
Yeah, and it's literally just the same thing.
But yeah, those were the 10 plats that I did in July,
Mhm.
and then we had the 2 that we did for
The Ludi XP 2 plats
yeah.
in 1
Sorry, I
minute
was turning the page
challenge.
over.
Yep.
on my notes. I have 3 pages on my little
Yeah.
journalist notepad. It's
Nice.
so many. I did lots of things.
Yes, you did lots of things. It was a good month for you. And so we did for that. We did 1 game together, and then we did
Yes.
our second game was different
Separately.
And so we did
It Takes Two
It Takes Two
again.
again. So
Mechanically fun.
mhm.
It's another one of those that if you delete your save, it keeps your save
Yep.
on the cloud.
Yep.
And so we got you've got all of the mini games trophy early, which made it so that we could just blast through and play the game.
Yep. Which was cool. So, and without doing all the mini games, which I feel like didn't really hurt it, honestly, because
They're not things that we really enjoy
No.
doing. We'd prefer to do mini games where we were working as a team,
right,
and not just like arbitrarily like, oh, I got more targets than you,
right, competing
my-
against each other.
or I swung off a swing further than you did, and it's just like,
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I don't need these.
No, it's something where it's like if you want to play a little party game where you play against your friends and whatever, you would play a different game. Right? Like you would play a party game like Mario Party or something like that, right? Rather than a narrative driven cooperative game.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. The little mini games they're whatever. But we didn't have to do them again, which was nice.
And I mean, like, we've talked about It Takes Two before.
We have.
This is the 3rd time we've done
Yep.
it. But we wanted we wanted to do the trophy for the 2 in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it's called Power Couple.
Power Couple. Yep. And we got
And a couple is 2.
Yes.
And 2 is in 200.
Yes. And 2 was the number of trophies that we needed to unlock in 1 minute. And that was one of them for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one that I did was for Seasons After Fall, which is a cute little platformer that's pretty chill, where you play as a fox.
Little Foxy.
Little Foxy. And, well, actually, you play as a spirit that's controlling a fox.
Yes.
And you go through the different seasons, and you're basically trying to save the cycle of seasons is in danger because of reasons that are story related that I won't go into, but there are different bits that you have to unlock, and you get different abilities and whatever as you play through. And so but it's chill because it's like you can't really die, and it's mostly just figuring out where to go and how to do the little platforming sections, which are not super hard or anything. And so the swapping between the seasons allows you to do different things, so if it's spring and it's rainy, then
you get plants that grow that wouldn't otherwise be there.
Yeah, certain things that grow, or you can fill up like a pool to raise you up a level, or if it's fall, then like certain mushrooms unfurl, and you can use them as platforms and various things, right? I
like the winter one with the plants that fire the giant snowballs,
yeah.
And then you can climb on the snowballs.
Yeah, and all the water is frozen over, so you can just walk across it.
Yes.
Right, and so you change the seasons to get the various things that you need to be able to progress up the different platforming sections. So yeah, I like the art style of it. I like the chill like music and atmosphere and whatever. It's just a neat little indie game, so would recommend. But that was my second one.
My second one was Medieval.
Nice.
A game that I played on the original PlayStation. Though I had the demo. There was like 7 different versions of the demo I found out. So loads of people have played the demo of Medieval back in the day, but never owned the game.
That's interesting.
So they probably played the first 3 levels that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then never played the rest.
Huh.
But yeah, I enjoyed the game. It was hard in places.
Yeah.
Like trying not to get killed by whirling dervish scarecrows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like basically the premise is you play as this hero who supposedly killed the Dark Wizard that plagued the land in the past. But what actually happened is you died in the first salvo of arrows, and the wizard isn't dead, and he casts this like magical curse on the land to raise the undead, and you get raised as one of the undead, and you have to kind of like fulfill the quest that you have credit for. So you need to go and hunt down Zarok, as Sir Daniel Fortescue.
That's
to
cool.
To gain your place in the Hall of Heroes. And the Hall of Heroes is an area that you get to at the end of each level if you can find the level's chalice. And to get the chalice, you need to kill a certain number of enemies in that level, pick the chalice up, and then finish the level.
Nice.
Like if you die, you have to restart the level over, but it has like fonts of health that you can use, and you start off with like a sword and a shield, and you get different weapons as you progress, and they unlock different things. So it's like you get the club, which you can use to break down walls, but it has like a percentage durability for you to be able to use it for. But then eventually, like, if you get enough challenges, you get the hammer, which is like the club, but it never runs out.
Nice.
But it's very much that, like, PS1 controls,
Yeah.
where it's janky,
Right.
and yeah,
Yeah.
it plays well enough.
Mhm.
I like the art style, where it's like the kind of zombies and skeletons, and then you progress through to like a church, and you have these annoying little imp idiots that try and steal your weapons and run away with them.
What?
But I didn't.
Jerks.
I didn't allow them to do that this time, because when I did my original run in the PS1 version, they stole my sword, my magic massive sword
No.
that cost like 7,000 to buy back, and I had no money, and I was like, I'm done. They stole my sword. I'm not playing anymore. Because you can buy your stolen items back from the vendor, but it costs a ton.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And yeah, you like progress through different areas. So you like start off in the graveyard area, then you go to a church, then you go to like this like pumpkin farm inspired a farm area, then like a pumpkin patch area, then like a garden maze, an asylum, some like magical forest. It's odd because it almost acts as if there's branching paths through the game, but you can't go down them until you do certain things in the other paths. So it's
Yeah.
not really branching, because it's like you need to find the shadow artifact to be able to progress
Right.
past this bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like you have to kind of figure out what you need to do.
That
The trophies
feels
were-
very of that era, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like there's
So
all
you've-
these areas, but they're locked off until.
Yeah. So you effectively have to like do each of the areas in order, and then it becomes linear again towards the end of the game.
Mhm.
The end of the game is a bit strange. Like, I was like, okay, why does this thing exist, and then it's not even a plot point. So you go through this section where it's like, here's Zarok's time machine. It's never used. It's like, did he travel through time? No, because he wasn't dead in the first place. So why is this a plot area? Like, it just doesn't make sense as to why that's a section.
Yeah.
I think they kind of lost the plot a little bit at the end.
They were just trying to do cool things.
It's almost like they came up with a bunch of different mechanics for different areas, and then they use them once and then move on.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh. It was almost like they were trying to copy different bits of other games, but then they don't continue the mechanic on.
Yeah.
They just like use it in that one area and then that's it.
Yep. Again, I think there are lots of games that are like that from that area, from that era, where it's like, this is the mechanic that you use to get through this section, but then you don't really need to use it at any other point.
Right. Because it's like you go in the church and it's like, oh, how do I get further forward? Oh, well, there's some like they're not caskets, they're like graves in the floor of a church, and
Yeah.
if that makes sense, you know, like where you have like a saint or whatever, but there's like 6 of them,
Right.
and one of them you can break open and fall down a hole
Mhm.
and go under the church into the undercroft,
Right.
but then that's never used again. And then there's another bit where the floor collapses and you run away from it. That's never used again either.
Yeah.
It's just like, did you try and include as many different things as possible?
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, like, for its time, it's a decent game.
Yeah.
I like the protagonist. I like him being claimed to be a hero, but is not, and has to earn his place.
Yeah, I think that's
And
funny.
yeah, I had nostalgia for it because obviously I played the demo back in the day.
Mhm.
It's not the easiest game, and it doesn't have the easiest controls, but
Yeah.
I would recommend it if you like the kind of hack and slash, older style
Yeah.
kind of puzzles. Oh, they added in like a new section. They added in a new quest part to the like 2019 remake or port, where it's like you have to collect like 20 lost souls. But it's like you collect the soul on one level, and then you have to go to a different level to like lay them to rest, and then pick up the soul from that level, and then go to another level. So you basically have to replay the entire game twice,
Yeah.
laying these souls to rest. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay. Don't really see why that needed to be included, but what it does do, it unlocks the original version of the game to be playable on the main menu.
Nice.
So it does give you something, but it just feels like, well, couldn't you give us that when we finished the game
Yeah.
as a
Interesting.
reward?
Cool. Well, so it sounds like you enjoyed it for the most part.
I did. It just like it's interesting when you play some of those like a lot like over 20 years old or 30 years old games,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, I really loved this as a kid, and then you play it as an adult and you're like, oh, thank Christ video games have come on the way they have.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. There's definitely those ones that have stood the test of time, you know? But I think a lot of them, the modern improvements with things make them more enjoyable sometimes, right? So like,
Especially quality of life
yeah,
changes.
so like it's much more fun to play through Sonic the Hedgehog on a modern console where you can save, you know, rather than having to play the entire thing with a certain number of lives and whatever, you know, on the original hardware, right? That's just my opinion, because it's just, it makes it less frustrating. You can
Makes it easier.
Yeah, it's easier. You can play the later levels, and I mean, it's easier, but there were other things back in the day, like there were cheats back in the day.
Yeah, there was
right?
level select cheats.
There was level select
I used that
cheats.
for Sonic 1. I could never remember the code for the second one.
Yeah, like I think the level select cheats were the only reason when I played it as a child that I was ever able to even see some of the later levels.
Yeah, see,
because
like Sonic
wasn't
2,
able to get that
I only ever made it to the 5th world, and I never saw beyond that until I played it on Xbox, and then was able to save my lives and stuff.
Yep.
It's like the rewind feature on the PS Plus, like the updated versions of the PS1 and PS2 games, where you can just kind of rewind.
Yeah, and fix
And
a
it
mistake.
like has a yeah,
which
is nice.
it is.
And makes them a lot easier.
Right. Because I mean, I think that it's like
Less frustration is good.
It's less frustrating, and it's nice to be able to see the end of games rather than to just get stuck on an early part and stay there forever. Like I see the value in getting better at something and persevering and like getting really good at Sonic or getting really good at Mario or whatever. But at a certain point it's just frustration, or it's that balance, right? Where it's like it's nice to have the option to do it without having all those saves and whatever, but it's nice to be able to have them for people who aren't as skilled or for people who don't have as much time to put into one game, you know?
Yeah.
So
I agree, and especially in the modern era where there's so many games to play, it's like I'm not going to spend a month getting good at Sonic.
right.
I just play it through as far as I can and then give it up. If there wasn't any trophies or achievements, right? It's just like, oh, I'll just play a bit. Yeah, I'm done, right? I'm going to go do another game.
Yeah.
Whereas I can save, great, and it has trophies and achievements. So the incentive is there to finish it, but it's not like this is going to be super hard. I'm not going to play this.
Right.
Because that's what we do, right? are 100% is important to us, and so we do look through trophy and achievement lists and go, that's a no. There's a permadeath mode that has like less than 1% of people that have done it, and I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus because I don't care for that permadeath mode.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah, I would like to play the game, but I'm not going to trophy or achievement hunt for it, and I'll play it on an alternate account. You know?
If I can get it on a good sale, I may well do the same because I've played all the other ones.
Yeah.
Of the modern era.
And so, you know, it depends on what kind of gamer you are and what's important to you and what you enjoy. You know?
Yeah.
There are people who played the same game over and over and over and over again because they want to get the highest or like the quickest speed run. Or, you know...
More power to them for doing what they enjoy.
Yeah. But not everybody has to enjoy the same things and enjoy games in the same ways. And
yeah,
so,
it's like, you know, we plan out things because that's what makes us happy and keeps our anxiety down. And that's a great segue for what I'm not doing this year.
Yeah.
With the plans that I've come up with recently.
Yeah.
For like attempting to get 7,000 trophies by the end of the year and potentially 175 platinums, because that would be my best year across any console.
Because that would be 76 platinums in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would beat my 74/5 total from last year.
Yeah, which is cool, you know, and if that's what you're focused on this year, then that's what you should focus on. And not feel like you have to play longer games just because you have them or because you quote unquote should, right?
Right, like that's my logic behind it is I would really love a massive PlayStation year. And I've put a lot of effort into getting there at this point with the 50, and I have 51. With hitting 150, that this is probably my best opportunity to get 75 because I've already put all that groundwork in already, and I have 5 months left.
Yeah.
And I have at least a good amount of shorter games left that I could do and leave the longer games for next year.
Yeah.
Because my plan for next year is to work on some rarer trophies.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why don't I just push those longer games to next year, where I will enjoy them more, because my mindset is I would like to do some longer games and not be so worried about how many plats I'm getting per month, how many trophies I'm getting per month.
Right.
And just get that out of my system this year, because you know me, I like my years of doing things. Like, I'm doing this year, and I'm doing something else next year, because the end of the year feels final, like
right. It feels
stats
like
screen done. And so, or like the end of the month, right? I was like, I want to do the full, and then I finished it, and then I was like, I don't really want to play anything else until tomorrow.
Right, because it's
like, oh, that's the end
reset.
of the month.
Yeah.
That's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I have these sections, and so I do stuff in sections because that's nice and regimented and works for me. And so I was like, I have the potential to do this. I don't feel like I'm destroying myself doing it, which is how maybe I felt in the past.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to do longer games, which was not gonna happen.
Right. Yeah.
When I did March and had no platinums.
Yeah, you were trying to do
because
things
I was doing
that
The
were
Witcher
too
and Red
long,
Dead.
and trying to do too many of those, and that was that was frustrating. But since like this past month, you seemed much happier, you know, because you've been doing some things that were not so long. And so it didn't feel like you were just, you know, pushing through the longer
Yeah, the longest one
things.
was Hogwarts Legacy,
Mhm.
and I shaved 10 hours off.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I remembered not to do was get all the collectibles,
Mhm.
because they don't count. You just need to make sure you get the ones that are in the book.
Yeah.
And then any of the extra ones, you just need like 90 of them, and then you're done.
Mhm.
And so I went, oh, I've got everything, great. And then left the other 30 in the castle to rot where they're sat. I'm like, I'm not getting you, go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, over the last 3 months, I've done 33 platinums.
Nice.
May, June, July.
Mhm.
And there's been some long ones sprinkled in there, because I did the majority of Red Dead in May, the single player.
Yep.
I've done Hogwarts. I feel like there might be another couple of other ones.
That were longish.
I'm just looking through my plat list. Fallout. That was another long one.
Mhm.
I knew there was another one on there. I mean, Assassin's Creed Mirage might have been a little bit on the, like, 30 hours.
Yeah.
I know. Wait, that can't be accurate. It says it took me 51 hours. And it's 30 to 35? There's no way. I think it took me between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
And that's one of the longer ones that I've done this year.
Yeah. Some
50
of those longer.
Yeah,
Some
of
of
those-
those counts are
Oh,
not
way off.
not accurate on true trophies.
Nope. I was just like that. And I think that's pulling the data from PlayStation,
Mhm.
where it's like, hang on a second, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it this year. So I might as well just focus on that and then focus on longer games next year
Yeah.
and see how I get on.
Yep. I think that makes sense to me. And then, you know, I'm still focused on my same goals that I had from the beginning of the year. I feel like I'm making good progress toward them, but I've also, you know, started collecting more retro games and older games.
Yep.
And I've made a little bingo card for myself because I would like to I would like to
You were
play
showing me
some more
earlier.
of those. Yeah. And so I have, it's like a 3x3 little bingo card with all the different systems that I have games for that I've started to collect. And I want to try to get one game in each of those systems, one game for each system, to
Yep.
be able to mark it off the bingo card. And I'll see if I can get bingo, and I'll see if I can fill the whole card, right? And
Watch this space.
yeah, and
It will be interesting to see how we get on by the 31st of December.
yeah.
Like, I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will most likely hit 75.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what games I play doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the same for 7,000. And like how many of your bingo cards you get done. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Like, I like that we've kind of come up with some different things to do now that we've passed the midpoint of the year.
Right, yeah. And just it's nice to kind of reassess and see how things are going, and adding some different flair, I guess, to the last part of the year. You know, and I think, you know, for me, my goals are there to keep me on track with stuff that I want to do. So a lot of times mine are to do with which games I want to focus on, or trying to play things from my backlog, or trying to get my money's worth out of Games Pass. You know, it's trying to make use of and play the things that I have access to, that I've spent money on and have amassed in my collection, right? Whether that's physical or digital. And so a lot of my goals are meant to push me to, like, do different aspects of that, and to feel like I'm, you know, doing the things that I have. I'm playing the games that I have.
Yeah.
Because for me, like, it's all well and good to have a bunch of things sitting on a shelf, or to have a bunch of things in your digital library, but if you aren't playing them, then it feels like, a waste to me. You know, like that's money that I could spend on something else.
Yeah.
You know?
Whereas to me, like, because I'm getting through games quite quickly, I'm like, oh, I want to try and add more things to my backlog to make sure I've got games to play.
Yeah.
Because I laser focus in on one console, whereas you've got lots of different plates spinning. Because you've got, like, Games Pass and PlayStation and your backlog bingo and your normal Xbox games and your games with gold, because you don't count that as the same as the other backlog because you're you, which is fine. But it's just like, you're like, you've got so many different pots that you're pulling games out of that you look in the different pots and go, there's way too many games in there because you've got so many. So I fully understand that, but also bargains.
Yes, I know, right? Well, I mean, if I see a game and it's $3 and it's something that I want to play at some point,
I think eventually you're going to have to give up on the, my backlog's huge. It's like, you've been buying $3 games for the last 7 months.
No, for sure. And that doesn't bother me as much. You know, it's different.
It is. I was just having a funny with you.
For sure.
But anyway, like, we've done well this year. And I think we've set ourselves some interesting goals.
Yeah. Just to touch on that briefly for a second, because I just had a thought, right? Like, it doesn't bother me if I've bought a bunch of things that are cheap and wait a long time to play them. Like, I'll eventually get to them and they were cheap. Like, that doesn't bother me a lot. I think it's more when I've spent a lot on something, I want to play it fairly quickly, because I feel like, well, I could have probably gotten it for a better sale, especially like if it's a newer game. So that was July.
Yeah, it was July, yeah. I was like, we're in August, but we're talking about July, as usual.
So that was our July. You know, as always, let us know what you've been playing and what you've been enjoying. And if you feel, you know, happy about how the year is shaping up, let us chat about it in the comments below. And we shall see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.